Welcome to our panel. Very glad to have you here to talk about of a very important topic, talking about Green Planet. So first of all, what I propose to do is to introduce myself. So I am Dominique Rousseau, in charge of the device business in Vodafone, based in Luxembourg. I'm particularly excited to talk about that topic, simply because this is one of the topics where we can really bring an impact as an individual, as a company. So becoming net zero, obviously, is a critical aspect of what we are trying to do. And so often we ask ourselves why it's so important. What we are trying to achieve here is to address, as much as we can, the global warming situation, which is really to avoid future disaster in the planet. And there is many ways we can have an influence, and we will be talking about that today. Before going into the topic, I would like first of all to introduce the panel participants. So maybe I start with Laetitia. Why don't you introduce yourself, Laetitia?
Hi, Dominique. Thank you for having me today. So I'm ESG Customer Engagement for International Market at Dell Technologies. And I'm a passionate people, and I'm very proud to be part of Dell Technology because this company fits with my values, and I can share my values with our customers.
Very good. Thank you very much, and welcome.
Thank you.
Ram, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah. Pleasure to be here. I'm a partner engineer with Google. I work with some of our Google Cloud Global System Integrator partners, and also working on sustainability solutions, so trying to extend what we're doing as Google to our partners and customers. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Ram. Sanjay?
Hi, I'm Sanjay Saxena from Huawei. I'm a marketing director, and recently I've been working on sustainability and net zero, and I've been looking at how we can reduce energy consumption, which is really critical, and then look at how we can reduce the carbon footprint in terms of other products that we supply and we offer to the market. I think this topic is really important because net zero is a very serious topic. I think corporates are really committed to it, but the action is slow. And I think this is why everybody feels it's a talk, but I don't think so. I think people are really walking here.
Thank you, Jean-Marc.
All right. Jean-Marc Defaut, Capgemini. I'm the only one to have another French accent. I'm sorry about that.
You're not the only one, so that's okay.
Yeah, I'm not the only one. You're right. I'm the second one. So I've got several hats and 3 reasons to be involved in sustainability. As the Deputy Group Portfolio Officer of Capgemini, I have worked and launched our sustainability priority offer in 2021. That's one. Leading the Edge platform strategy, I'm also looking at sustainability as a dimension of Edge and what it will bring to our clients. And lastly, as a Capgemini citizen, I'm supporting our pledge to be net zero by 2040, carbon neutral by 2025, and 2030 for the entire supply chain.
Very good, Jean-Marc. So see the commitment behind already is quite clear, ambitious targets at Capgemini. So I just want to talk a little bit about what we do at Vodafone for a second. At Vodafone, we believe the topic Green Planet is very important, and we believe that commercial success should not come at the cost of the planet. And that's very important that we identify activities to reduce carbon emissions and reduce e-waste. Both topics are of very high priority for us at this very moment. Our aim, as Jean-Marc said, we also have very clear targets, very ambitious target, to become net zero with our own operations by 2030, and to become net zero to the entire value chain, including our vendors, our partners, by 2040. So that's the overall commitment that we have been sharing to the public, and that's what we are working against right now. We recognize that net zero emissions and zero e-waste is very important as well in the way we are handling our product to our customers. And to start with, I would like to ask you a question. Do you know if you use a second-hand, a refurb device, a second life device, do you know how much you contribute to the planet? I will ask first to the panel participants if anybody knows the answer. How much do we contribute when we as a customer buy a second-hand device, a refurb device?
Certainly less than the new device.
That's a very good response as a start. Yeah, I'm asking for a number. Anyone want to give a try? No. Okay. So I'm going to give you the answer. We talk about for any refurb device. This is an average because that depends very much if it is a big screen, small screen, that type of things. But the average is 50 kilograms for every device, refurb device you buy. You save 50 kilograms CO2. Why? Simply because that device can be reused longer, so we extend life cycle of that device, and for that we are reducing, by definition, the CO2 footprint. We are also saving 164 kilograms of raw material that are required to build that device. So the effect for one single device refurb is quite significant. So imagine if we are able to scale that across and motivate our customer to buy into it. I mean, this is a key aspect. So probably when you are back home tonight, or maybe tomorrow, for those ones traveling, when you open your drawer, and you realize that I have 3 devices sleeping, then maybe you realize the effect you can have on the planet if you are able to reuse that device. And instead of buying a new one, maybe you can offer this one to your children or whatever. And that's the logic we are exactly going through at this very moment. So let me just switch to the panel questions now. So I will start with a question for Jean-Marc. The question is, across industry and organizations, do you see a clear difference in approach, investment, and commitment to achieve net zero? If so, who is leading on what's the best practice you can share?
So thanks, Dominique. I've got the $1 million question, as you may have heard. So allow me to answer another question first, if you don't mind. Are we in line with our 2050 objective? Okay, first of all, no, we are not. The progress is slow, and all the commitments made so far are falling short of what is required, first of all. Second, we see a lot of countries, cities and businesses accelerating with more than 1,200 companies that have a science-based target aligned with net zero. So that's good news. It's still too slow. So if I want to answer your question now with regard to the industries, so first of all, we work on 5 dimensions, okay? Net zero and new business model, because it requires new business model to some extent. It goes with, who will pay for sustainability. We look at sustainable product design, sustainable operation, sustainable IT, and then the data that we need to support the reporting and show the progress. So far, what we have done and what we can describe from our experience is that manuf, such as automotive, aerospace, CPR are the ones that are moving forward the fastest. And most importantly, the ones that are making progress are the ones that understand ecosystem, both from an upstream and downstream perspective. Okay, that's what we see. Because the circularity that we need to have up and down is very important, just like for refurbishing equipment, as you just said. So this is what we can see as a pattern, but it's a bit too early to have very, very specific best practices. That would be too early to say, right?
Yeah. Thank you, Jean-Marc. I mean, this is very clear that it's a learning. We are in a learning process altogether, and I think this is one of the key takeaways. Thanks, Jean-Marc, for confirming this. There is a lot we can do, but there is a lot of learning we are bringing on the journey. So thanks for that, Jean-Marc. Next question is driving net zero for Sanjay? Is driving net zero a cost increase? And if so, who is paying for this cost?
So, in brief, I think it's certainly costly, and I don't think there is one person who should pay the cost. But let me explain why. So first of all, net zero is a transition from non-green to green, from as is to something different. And we all know this kind of transformation will involve cost. So certainly, if you want to go from a fossil fuel car to electric car, it's going to cost you more money. If you want to replace it for all your FLM teams, it's going to be expensive. If you want to put solar panels everywhere, it's going to be requiring investment. So I think net zero is costly. I think, but the fundamental question is, which is the tricky question, who pays for it? And there are a few options. One is the end consumer, who's probably not in the room today, because, he's the end customer. But I think they are also under pressure of cost inflation, post-pandemic. They are really, the share of wallet is shrinking there, and the cost of living is very high right now. So we cannot really transfer the entire cost onto them. If you remember, when organic foods were introduced, everybody increased the price of organic food and put it on shelves. But how many people did really buy organic foods? Finally, there was only a handful. We went back to the inorganic food. So we really did not take up to the organic foods. So I think passing the burden to the end consumer is not the solution. Another option is suppliers, So corporates can pressurize their suppliers, who can pressurize their tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 suppliers. And then it becomes finding the blame game, who really is responsible, and trying to find one scapegoat to put the cost. And I think that's not fair either. I don't think this will work. Something which I learned, what we have done in Huawei is, we called all our suppliers, 300 of them, in a 2-day workshop. And the first thing we did was created awareness, told them about what green is, what net zero is, what are the challenges. And they started sharing some of the net zero data, like scope 1, scope 2 data to us. We started sending experts to them to reduce energy consumption. We started doing audits for them so that they could reduce e-waste. So this is how we started helping them. For me, net zero is very simple. It is reduce within, enable beyond. Reduce within is very easy. You need to reduce carbon footprint, reduce energy consumption. It's reduce waste. But the fundamental difference is enable beyond, where we enable our suppliers, our partners, our customers, our society, our nature, to put the carbon back into the soil. I think this is what we all need to do as a corporate. Once we start doing this, that's when we really drive this whole ecosystem. So, going back to the answer, who should pay for it? I think we all need to share the burden. I think there needs to be a green premium or a green surcharge, which should be paid by the suppliers, by everybody in the food chain, in the value chain, and the government should help with the investment as well. So, sorry for a long answer, but...
Very interesting. I think it's very interesting because I think what you say, Sanjay, is basically it's a common topic that we all together need to mobilize to really address. And we will not succeed if we do it as a single entity. I think that is what I'm taking away from your long answer,
exactly.
But very good. Well done. Thank you for that. So I move to the other side. Yeah, please, Laetitia.
In the same boat on the scope 3, and this is why we are all here today, and we are all need to interact and to act together to make it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, as Laetitia, what you said about we are addressing scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3. If for those ones who are a little bit have a black belt in the green planet tactics or techniques, scope 1, scope 3 are clearly in our control. Scope 1, scope 2 are in our control. Scope 3 are much more extended to our partners. So very important what you say is we need also to address scope 3 emissions. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Jean-Marc,
just
you have a
wanted
reaction.
to add something to what has been said. As constraint is the mother of innovation, that constraints also open alleys for new business model and also ways to think differently about what we do as a company and what we do for our clients. And it's not only about the cost. I mean, you can see the cost, of course, as the main constraint, but if you look at the new business model and how we can do things differently, you will open new business alleys that will probably bring you more money, more margin than what it costs to change the game.
Yeah,
also.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, Jean-Marc, for that. So let me move a little bit on this side now of the panel. Would like to ask a question to Ram. How do you find out who is in the supply chain, up and downstream, to engage them, to drive them to net zero? We are really talking about scope 3 in this case, yeah?
Yeah, I think the challenge is really the scope 3 side of things, where the lack of data, lack of visibility is what creates the big problem. And from our perspective, one way to address that is digital. All of the supply chain processes has an ERP behind it, a system of records and a system of suppliers, which are all interlinked. And most of them are, in a digital, cycle somewhere or the other. To be able to leverage the data that already exists, to be able to create, leverage technology, to be able to analyze the data, to use the analytics that technology has to offer. Just to quote an example, since I'm from Google, with Google Cloud, we leverage something like Cortex framework, which is a plug-in to the existing ERP or system of records, and leverages technologies like big data, which have been proven, with BigQuery platforms that have been proven by users across the world, more than 1 billion users. So this creates the visibility across the spectrum. It creates the the digital twin, in a sense, of the supply chain and being able to trace through the suppliers that you have. So this is one way to approach it. And there are lots of examples how we've done it with some of our customers. Maybe I'd like to leave the panel open to also for others to add any points on this.
Thank you. Very
I would like to
interesting.
just briefly add, sorry, Dominique, to what Ram said. In Huawei, what we are doing is doing some life cycle assessment of products, and we are using the ISO 1400 standards, and we are trying to understand what is the cost at each life cycle stage, and trying to break it down into the raw material extraction, manufacturing, and then trying to bring all this data together. But the challenge, as you said, is not. We're not able to get all the data possible. It's about building some kind of digital twin. I think that's a great idea, which I would take back, I think, where we could actually build some kind of parallel streams where we don't have primary data, we can have this kind of data source.
I mean, clearly, technology can help us, for sure. And talking about technology, Laetitia, have we reached the peak of technology hardware? How does Dell plan to reduce the carbon footprint of its products?
So as far as for the first question, I think I will be echoing what the mayor of Luxembourg said this morning. Definitely technology is a key enabler to help governments, cities, private companies to reduce their carbon footprint. And as far as your second question, so we have been working for long years in meeting our goals to help our customers to meet their own goals. And why did we do that for so many years? For one simple reason, because every solution that we sell has Michael Dell's name on it. So Michael is really inspiring and setting goals on our ESG initiatives, all of our pillars, whether it is sustainability, diversity or inclusion, transforming lives thanks to technologies, or ethics and data privacy. And we have some moonshot goals to reach by 2030. And we already had some goals before that. And the good news is that we have reached those goals. So I think to work with companies who are aiming to reach their goals and really make it and really mean it. It's important. Second, as far as Vodafone has, we also have ambition to be net zero by 2050 on scope 1, 2, and 3 for the entire portfolio of Dell Technologies, which is quite ambitious. And to answer directly to your questions, when it comes to our devices, we have to design it. So it means use less materials, make sure that the materials that we are in the products are reusable, recyclable, repairable as well, and more durable, because now we have customers asking for using our devices in a longer time of period. Also, we build our product. What it means that we have to use more renewable electricity to build our product, and also to take care of waste that we will be generating. When it comes to the use phase of our product, we have been reducing, so we have made great efforts on reducing the energy intensity of the overall portfolio of Dell Technologies by more than 76%. And it comes to 80%, more than 80% for the infrastructure solution. And also we are using more than 71% of recycled plastic in the lids of our laptops, the Latitude, so the B2B laptops. And also we are embarking some tools for our customers like OME Power Manager to measure the energy consumption of their data centers and make sure they could use application during off-peak hours, those kind of tools. So this is very important to have those solutions for our customers. And of course, we have to ship our solutions. So we have ambitions to reach 100% recycled renewable material in our overall packaging for all our solution. And the good news is that at the end of this year, we will be already at that target for our laptops that we'll be using, propose multi-pack solutions for our customers. And also we have to make sure that our product will be recycled in an environmental friendly manner, make sure that we could have a second life, like, as we say, refurbished material for our customers also.
Yeah. I took away, you said a lot of great numbers and ambitions. I think the 70% plastic recycling is very important because we often think about CO2 reduction e-waste, but plastic removal from the value chain is also a key element. So absolutely right. Fantastic. Well done. I think, Jean-Marc, you want to add
just
something?
wanted to come back on your two intervention. So we've been working on the intelligent and sustainable supply chain, and what struck me is that you can't do sustainable if this is not intelligent. Just as Ram said, and based also on your experience, because at some point you will need to assemble system of systems. So if we look at digital twins and simulation and projection of one choice versus another, you look at that, you need to be extremely smart, considering the entire ecosystem, and build it as a digital twin. So it goes hand in hand, those two sides of the same coin. If it's not smart, it can't be sustainable.
Yeah, thank you for this additional comment, Jean-Marc. Now, Ram, would you mind to tell us what are the Google actions for net zero commitment and how Google enabling its customer to achieve their net zero targets?
So for a start, Google or Alphabet as a company realized it much earlier about the importance of being a sustainable organization. So we have been carbon neutral since 2007 with the help of carbon bonds. So that's a long time ahead of most other similar enterprises. And since 2017, we've moved to completely matching with renewable energy or carbon-free energy 100% to what we consume. And we've set an ambitious target of complete net zero by 2030. So as an organization with services that are covering more than 1 billion users, with the YouTubes of the world, with the search and so on, and this is the same infrastructure that's also being used for Google Cloud. So from enterprises moving to a simple switch to Google Cloud itself is a big gain from reducing their operations carbon footprint, moving their IT or greening their IT by moving to a clean cloud. And second, Google has the advantage of having petabytes and petabytes of geospatial data. And we leverage that to, I'll take the example of Unilever. This is we worked with Unilever to identify their supply chain, being able to source where their palm oil comes from, being able to leverage the geospatial data that's available, and create a sustainable sourcing pipeline for Unilever, so that this puts someone as big as Unilever pushing their suppliers, first of all, creating the visibility where it's coming from, and someone as big as Unilever pushing the suppliers to bring on board only sustainably sourced raw materials for their palm oil production. Another example that I can quote perhaps is UPS. The last mile delivery has been pretty much one of the most disrupting when it comes to the ecology. We worked with UPS to be able to optimize the last mile delivery, being able to, what that has in turn done is it has saved 10 million gallons of fuel every year for UPS, and that's a huge number. And by that terms, about $400 million a year. I mean, right now it probably is even more. So this is the kind of actual on-the-ground examples that we've been working with our customers in solving the sustainability challenge.
Okay, thank you. So there is every step counts, right? And transparency and also the ability to involve your partners is obviously key in what you are doing at Google. So impressive. Thank you for that. We are coming to the end of this panel. So I think obviously referring to the first question, is it a talk or is it, going green planet, addressing CO2 reduction, removing e-waste? Obviously, from what you hear from the panel participants today, it's not a talk, it's really a commitment. And you see there is various ways we can create an impact, but there is clearly a commitment of the big companies represented on this floor today. So it's very nice to see, by the way, the motivation behind it from the speakers, the panelist members, but also the commitment of the companies behind. And I think, to me, this is what will make a difference. This is what is already starting to create an impact. And I would like to potentially maybe leave with 3 thoughts when you are back home. 3 takeaways that are coming very clear through the inputs of the various members of the panel today. Number 1, acting alone is not an option. Reducing e-waste, reducing CO2, we will be successful when we bring our partners together with us. So it's about scope 1, scope 2, scope 3, the entire value chain, and we want to address everything at once. So acting together is a must. So this is clearly an invitation for those ones that are partnering with Vodafone to help us to drive this way, because we are, as you heard, very committed to that. The second takeaway is that, I think you raised that, Jean-Marc, or Sanjay as well. When we talked about e-waste a few years ago, it was a cost. It was perceived as a burden. Still is a little bit, because it costs something, yeah? And who is bearing the cost? I think, Sanjay, you talked about it. And you said it's basically all of us who have to contribute to it. So for me, what's very important to understand is how do we bring this e-waste reduction, this CO2 reduction, how do we bring this as a commercial proposition? That's not trivial, but the example of using refurbished device that I used at the very beginning of the panel is a great example where you can add value to consumer because you are bringing them a cheaper device, more affordable device, And at the same time, you contribute to the CO2 reduction, as we explained. I'm sure you remember the number that I mentioned. What is one device refurb contribute in terms of CO2 reduction? I will ask at the end of the session before leaving the room. And the last key takeaway, and I think some of you mentioned that. I mean, Laetitia, you talked a lot about your customer. And I think that's essential that we bring the customers who are paying the bill of our product, of our services, into this activity. And there is probably one way, at least we could start with, is to provide customers the transparency of how eco-friendly, you talked about it as well. I think more or less all of you have reached that topic, have touched that topic. See, how do we sell eco-friendly product, eco-friendly solutions? Offering transparency to customers is a start. I'll give you an example. At Vodafone, we are introducing eco-rating at our point of sales for every product we sell. So this is an example of things you can help customers to understand. How do I contribute by choosing which product I'm going to buy, and how do I contribute as a single individual to this objective? So bringing customer is key, and this is where I would like to leave and land you with these 3 thoughts. Yeah. So bringing customers with us, transform e-waste as a commercial opportunity. That's a real challenge, but I think it's possible. And join forces, acting together is a must. With this said, I think we are coming to the end of this panel. I would like to thank you, Jean-Marc, Sanjay, Laetitia, Ram, for your participation. And would like to thank you as well for listening to us. Go green. We count on you. And thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you.